glorious chaos.
Well, I think the first thing that we learned is that the way the Baltimore Ravens are going to try to win games this year is 1 versus 11. I'm not exactly sure what else they're supposed to do with the offense that they have, but the weight on Lamar Jackson seems to be as heavy as it has ever been. They got that big run early from Williams on the 34-yard run or somewhere around there. But then after that, it was just like, yo, you go out and win this like it's a high school game. And it looked like it looked like they were going to win the game. But one thing I wonder about Baltimore is last year they were basically, we're going to bring 8 every single time. We're just going to crowd everybody into the box and then go from there. I don't know how long you can keep doing that before the league figures out things to do. And it seemed to work in the first half. In the second half, Derek Carr actually looked like an NFL quarterback, and we saw that lead dwindle, and then go away.
Sarah Spain, glorious chaos is what I called it. What do you call it?
I don't know if I'd say Carr actually looks like an NFL quarterback. This guy had over 4,000 yards last year. Statistically, he has been good. And even so, we seem to doubt him, myself included last night. Every time there was an error or an opportunity for a pick that the other team didn't get, oh, man, he's lucky. He's just winging the ball around. He's not taking care of things. This team is just about to give it away at every turn. And they didn't. They kept coming back. The offense kept driving down the field. Carr kept making plays. The Ravens weren't as amazing as I thought they'd be. And yeah, to Bo's point, I think a lot of that is Lamar putting too much on his shoulders. But in addition to all the football craziness, you mentioned them shaking hands as if the game was over. You also had a ref loudly saying over and over, the game is not over. And no one was listening to him. But that stadium, having fans for the first time, what a game to have them, the highs and lows, the agony and ecstasy, all of it was incredible and perfect for the very first Vegas game with a full crowd that we wondered whether they would be too busy with bottle service and DJs, and instead they were ravenous the entire time.
Speaking of incredible and perfect and very much a Vegas look, Tim Kalishaw, I mean this is the early bird special.
The
going at the craft table with the shirt. Go ahead, please.
Let me just paint a picture for what happened last night in Vegas. First of all, the Ravens thought they had it won when it was 14-0. Harbaugh had never lost a game when his team was leading 14-0. Then they thought they had it won late before the overtime. Let's not forget that quick drive and then a 55, 56-yard field goal from Carlson they needed to tie to get it to overtime. But as others have mentioned, the Ravens have big problems. Everybody's worried about the running backs they lost. I'm more worried about the tackles they still have. They couldn't block the Raiders. That did have Lamar Jackson running way more than he wants to, and that's something they're not going to solve easily.
So if everybody is talking Baltimore, Clinton, I'll bring you in here with a question, all right? Lamar Jackson was pressured 54% of the time per Next Gen Stats last night. He had 2 turnovers. Is that a byproduct of the running back woes they had, the scheming, or is there too much on his plate?
I think the offensive line that Tim mentioned is a big factor here. Villanueva looked terrible, as did Stanley. And when you've got guys that are getting free runs at Lamar, he can do everything he can do from a footwork standpoint. You saw what he did in the red zone, but you can't expect him to carry the offense when, again, the weapons aren't weaponing, something that's happening a little too frequently with this Baltimore Ravens team. Overall, though, I mean, the Raiders, wacky yet effective, a tactic I like a lot. I thought it was very interesting what happened at the end of that game where Gruden just started running guys in and out, and then he finally went for it, and they won. He seemed to do what he was doing, even though it looked completely ridiculous. I thought this was a good game for the Raiders. Their defensive line made a statement, and it made the difference at the end of the game. You saw it when Lamar Jackson was sitting face down on the turf, wondering what happened after the ball got blown up out of his hand.
Incredible play from Carl Nassib. Bomani Jones back in.
Now, Sarah, you said Lamar put too much weight on himself. I don't think he asked for those guys to not be good at football. This doesn't seem to be like something he voted for. The other thing, Tony, you mentioned about the fumbles. That's been a thing with him his whole career, in part because he carries the ball so much. But he is loose with it. He's not like Daniel Jones or Josh Allen in terms of giving up the ball, but he will put it on the ground.
Sarah Spain.
Yeah, I think my point with that, Bo, is that he has to figure out in that second whether he wants to continue with his progressions and trusts those new guys that he's had a couple days to work with, or those weapons that he's looking for deep, or whether he should just take off with it. And that almost always works for him, so it's not a bad choice. But I do think when you lose 81% of your running game and the 2 injuries to Dobbins and Edwards, you've got this new people, and he might just say, I got to put all this on my back, because he's not sure what those guys can give him yet. They just got there. And Tony, really quickly, I meant to mention this before, Carl Nassib that you mentioned, how amazing is it that we had our first active gay player in the NFL playing in a game, making big plays, and it wasn't that much of a story, which is what we always want it to be, is just, yeah, come on, you make a play, you're ready to go, and then we'll welcome you in.
Tim Kalishaw, last word.
Lamar and Sammy Watkins need to develop some chemistry really, really fast to get something going, so he's got something besides Mark Andrews to rely upon.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.